Hey, everybody, welcome into another episode of the Connection Loop podcast, a place where you can hear and learn from sales and business leaders and entrepreneurs. We're super excited today to welcome into the podcast Jamie Shanks. He's a sales and growth guru and CEO of Get Leverage, one of 3 agencies he's actually built and scaled over the years. Get Leverage really focuses on helping founders and CEOs navigate the idea and the reality of offshore talent. With one of his agencies named Sales for Life, who better to talk about sales strategies and advice? Jamie, welcome into the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so kind of bringing the audience up to speed. You know, our audience loves to hear the good stuff of the story. So talk to us about kind of where you started from and how you got to where you are today.
Backstory, I was a VP of sales in my 20s of a SaaS software company that we took from zero to profitability. I thought I knew everything about sales, so I hung a shingle out to start my own agency. First 2 years flamed out hard, barely made it and survived. But I got really lucky that I saw where the puck was going, and this is the Canadiana in me. And I saw that the advent of LinkedIn, this is 2011 and 12, would be really valuable to the sales community. And I started reverse engineering LinkedIn to self-discover what I would call social selling. So I got lucky that I built a sales methodology that became a verb. I coined that term, created curriculum around it, and scaled a global sales training company called Sales for Life to 600 global customers around the world. Along the journey, we had a rocket ship growth that ended up hitting a financial wall in 2018 because we were growing so fast, we were spending money before we were even making it. So I woke up one day, I was $1 million in debt, and I knew I needed to change. And I took on a mentor, and that mentor helped me stop looking at the numerator, the revenue I was collecting, and start focusing on operational expenses. And the biggest thing in your P&L, or your profit and loss statement of expense, is human capital. And that took me on a journey 8 years ago of looking much more objectively at where was I sourcing my talent? What was that talent doing? Separating, we'll call $5 an hour tasks from $500 an hour value creation. And over this journey, I began offshoring to the point where I developed a relationship, met my business partner, Nazmul. This guy was building out my marketing teams at my agencies. We came together with another gentleman named Derek Martin, and we formed a company called Get Leverage. And the purpose there was to help small to medium companies have the same experience that I had. Stop doing the $5 an hour tasks and start focusing on $500 value creation, and have your go-to-market team completely the whole back end of it in partnership with Offshore Talent. Everything from social media content creation to video editing to website optimization and SEO to prospecting on LinkedIn to database development, CRM optimization, and so forth. The entire go-to-market revenue operations, your onshore teammates have partners to do the $5 an hour tasks. So that's the agency that we've created, Get Leverage, and we've scaled dramatically ever since.
Wow, that's amazing. That's like, you know, doing everything in that flywheel that you're talking about. Because when I checked out, you know, the site, you know, I loved revenue operational support, and I think that's kind of what, you know, you were alluding to there. But how have you found in terms of, you know, with other companies out there, the messaging? Have they kind of fully embraced it? Do they understand it? Has there been levels of education in terms of letting people know that this is a really effective way to grow your business?
They know that they have a problem. So in the world of selling, there's those that sell painkillers and those that sell vitamins. And I've been in both businesses, and I can tell you it's a lot easier to sell a painkiller than a vitamin. The painkiller is that small to medium businesses have all kinds of roadblocks. It's usually resource driven. Time, money, and energy are preventing them from growing. Specifically, like it's this awful feedback loop. I don't have the money to hire who I want, but then I'm doing all the work myself, so I don't have the time, and I'm losing all my energy doing the work myself. So this is this like constant loop. So what we're then presenting people is a solution to that problem. And once we have a sales conversation, they realize, yes, the underlying root cause to their problem is they're stuck working in the business, whether it's the CMO or the founder, and they're not working on it, but they can't afford to get out of this nasty loop. And so using labor arbitrage, using offshore talent, they could now put in a team of 3, 4, 5 people that can do 3, 4, 5 different things. Like it's an entire marketing department that they couldn't have before. So now all the projects that sat on the shelf could be unlocked, and the customer understands that that's the problem. And the symptoms that trickle down is, okay, now you're unlocking my social media. Now you're unlocking creating videos at scale for us, or working on SEO optimization on the website. Those symptoms are nice to haves in comparison to, hey, I need to step out of doing all this rote mechanical work in marketing so I can work on bigger things.
And it sounds like too, I noticed that you made a video, it was a social post about how the mindset is so important, especially someone if they're going from corporate to becoming an entrepreneur, in the entrepreneur series you were doing. And you talked about how it can be a bit of a hamster wheel in terms of the subconscious back of your mind. Like you and I are talking right now, and I'm trying to be in the moment, which I am, but I'm also thinking about 10,000 other things I got to do, right? The life of that, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's got to come to some kind of major relief that when you're talking to entrepreneurs who are business owners, and you can put this in front of them with the offshore talent, how that can remove a lot of that constant hamster wheel, I would think.
Yeah. And we have an exercise that we ask people to do, and a lot of people don't realize the opportunity cost of going left.
Mm-hmm.
That means that you've sacrificed going right, whatever that is. And so we have them go through, and the easiest one to always explain, especially for my fellow sellers, is you ask sales professionals to go sell.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you break down a sales process from a lead coming in the door, or maybe you had to source it yourself, all the way to entering that into CRM, booking a meeting, running a demo and discovery call, running a second call to get what's called buying consensus from the buying committee, then maybe crafting a proposal, then going through vendor documents and working through a contract, and then winning a deal. And there's 75 other tasks that happen in sales to go from the idea that you want to target Yeti, the water bottle company, versus winning their business.
Right.
When you break down all those tasks, it's Pareto's law. 20% of those tasks are worth $500 an hour. Extremely valuable. As an example, being on that first demo and discovery call and doing medic qualification. So listening to a customer, asking what and how based questions to unearth, is this a great lead for us or opportunity to follow for the next 3, 6, 12 months? That's worth $500 an hour. But the things that led up to that moment, so sending a LinkedIn message that booked a meeting and put it into a calendar and go into the CRM, and then sharing calendars together to have that meeting live, that's all part of sales. But that doesn't mean that he or she in North America should be doing it. And that exercise is so critical for founders, chief revenue officers, chief marketing officers, to go through a day in a life or a week in a life. And every time you literally are making a keystroke or doing anything, put it into one or two columns. Was that worth $5 an hour objectively, or was that worth $500 an hour? And you start to realize that the minutes add up to hours, add up to, and the average seller is spending 10 to 20% of their week doing administrivia. And as for the same for the founder, and as for the chief marketing officer. And that, when you look objectively at it, that's usually when our future customer goes, I can't get out of this hamster wheel unless I get this off my plate.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is too, we talk about with Dub is, anytime you're learning a technology, a lot of times, people come to the table and say, oh, this is amazing. I can do this stuff. This is great. A, how much time is it going to take me to learn it? B, what does it look like in terms of the onboarding? And what are the use cases where I can use this thing, where I can actually, make money, do my business, do what I want to do. And I'm not sitting and learning tech all day long, learning how to do something, right? You're not in education mode for, your entire week. You're in education, learn, but, execute. So I think a lot of what you were saying is when you have a team put together like that, it enables the CEO, the owner, the head of sales to do what they're supposed to do and be good at what they're supposed to do. And that's amazing. What has been for you, any commonality across the board in terms of, when you talk to clients, like any pushback, like, oh, I just like almost like it's their baby. They're worried about their baby. They want to control every aspect of it. Is more like taking the hands off the wheel and saying, look, this is how you drive more effectively?
Yeah. So pre-COVID, the natural objection, and Get Leverage didn't exist at that time, but I had already teammates all around the world.
Yeah.
And up until the point of COVID, the biggest objection, I always mix that up with objectives, but the biggest objection would have been, I am used to having people ride shotgun beside me. And because of that, I can swivel my chair, water cooler effect. We can talk through some of our challenges. And my agency we have a floor of a building in Dhaka, Bangladesh. And yes, we all work in the office together. That's how all of us solve our customers' problems.
Yeah.
But that would have been the problem before. Now, the legacy bias will come in around quality assurance, communication, timeliness, the accents around communication. And so it's been our responsibility as an offshore agency to be able to reverse engineer those legacy biases and say, we're actually going to make those the core values. So in my agency, the number one core value is overt communication. Every day, there's a daily report. There's weekly summaries. There's daily stand-up calls. We have Slack groups and Microsoft Team groups, and we do everything to over-communicate to the point where we've had many customers say, I wish my onshore teammates who are working from home would actually communicate like this. And it's because we have to overcome these legacy biases to prove that talent is the same talent around the world.
Yep.
You just have to be patient to overcome some of these little details to be able to make 5 and 10 times financial gains. That's usually the financial difference. And if you're willing to, get a little uncomfortable for a short period of time with your workflows, the gains are massive.
And that obviously sounds like a huge part of, entrepreneurs and business owners wanting to go, especially in the startup phase, to scaling, because everyone's like, hey, I'm here, but obviously I want to go there. For you, with your experience, obviously what you explained is a huge chunk of it, but what have been some advice that you could give to current businesses out there that are startups and that are looking to scale?
Here's what you need to do this mathematical formula. We actually have it as a free resource and downloadable on our website. I want you to think of this. Let's say that you are a $1 million business. Okay. Let's just make that up. And you're a 20% EBITDA or profit business. That's $200,000 of profit that come to the bottom line of your business. And you think of how hard, 92% of companies never make it to $1 million, and 99 point something don't make it to 10. So you've worked so hard to get the rocket off the ground to get to $1 million, to be able to soak out $200,000 in profit. Now, of that $200,000 in profit, if you were to take a role that you were going to hire, as an example, you needed somebody to now manage social media, and that person or that team was going to cost you X. And you could do that for $50,000 a year less. Well, at 20% profit, what you didn't just save $50,000. What you also did is remove 50,000 times 5, which is 20% profit, which is $250,000 of headwind that you needed to go sell. You and your team needed to go sell $250,000 worth of deals to generate $50,000 in profit. So you have just given yourself a tailwind. Now you don't have to go sell $1.2 million to generate that same. Now your million goes further, and now you have more to the bottom line. That $50,000 creates financial optionality. You could use it to increase the line of credit for your business because now you have better financial covenants. You could use it as a distribution to owners. You could invest in a new product. All these, your options start to expand. And it's important for business owners to recognize, again, if you go left, your opportunity cost is going right. When you save $50,000 or $100,000 to grow up a marketing operations department, well, again, at 20% EBITDA, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars you don't need to go sell. You've just relieved off of your sales force.
No, and I think, scaling has been such a, How long has that word been around? Probably forever. But in the last, God, what decade, it's just been a big buzzword you hear all the time: scaling, 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 scaling. And I think everything you've outlined in terms of efficiency with what you've done is, I think a lot of people need to pay attention to that, because you're kind of taking everything in the universe and saying this is the most A to B way that you can get to where you want to go, especially with the talent of the people that are in their roles. Because, like you said, there are talented people all over the world. It's about getting rid of those legacy biases and having everything in place that can benefit everyone in terms of the growth of the company.
Yeah.
What about for you? What about with you? The last calendar year, because things are changing so quickly in the environment, in the world, every day there's an update on something. But what's been the most effective sales strategy for you within the past 2024, 2025 now, as we're almost moving into 2026?
It's been the same strategy since 2011. So if you look at our lead sources, we have 5 categories of lead sources, from organic paid media, organic marketing, paid media, outbound sales prospecting, referrals, all these different sources. The number one that's been the most consistent that we can control is engagement, prospecting on LinkedIn. And why is that? When you email prospect, you run into both technological challenges at scale. You run into domain reputation and shadow banning from Google and Microsoft, and you just have diminishing read and response rates over years. LinkedIn, if you run specific plays in a playbook, and we actually do this on behalf of customers as well, but I do it for me, is you use LinkedIn to start conversations that are not, it's not just about, hey, let's connect. Hey, I want to have a meeting with you. That doesn't work. That hasn't worked in years. What does work is start a conversation, a connection request on LinkedIn, and add value. As an example, I invite people to be a guest on my podcast, very similar to the podcast we're doing right now. So I invite chief revenue officers, chief marketing officers, founders of companies. They become a guest on a podcast, and we share great ideas. We build a rapport. And from that, I give them, it's called a permission-based campaign. I give them the permission at the end to ask more about my agency. A percentage will, a percentage won't. But the percentages that do, we then book a meeting and a meeting. I use LinkedIn to drive people to future webinars. I use LinkedIn to drive people to breakfast, lunch, and dinner meetups that I host all the time. I get founders in the room. I use LinkedIn to be able to engage what's called the sphere of influence. So anybody that leaves employment from one of my existing customers and moves on to another business that fits my ideal customer profile, we start a conversation on LinkedIn. So it's this beautiful, uninterrupted, it doesn't have a gatekeeper machine for constant communication.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, and all of the things you talked about are action initiated, opt in, action, but also very different cool things that companies and CEOs and leaders can do. It's like you said, it's not just about booking a meeting, it's about
you can control.
Yeah, exactly. You're in a controlled environment that you're inviting them into the different environments, which is really neat. How about in terms of what you've learned? So we take this past year, only this year, so same kind of window. Is there anything that you've learned that you're like, oh wow, I didn't know that? And that
well,
kind of
I'm going through, I am learning every day now around the importance of human capital, like at your HR department. We're a team of 60, about to be 80 in 1 month, about to be 100 by the end of the summer. And we'll have needed to acquire our 3rd office, new real estate, in the 2 years since we've been incorporated. So literally, I just got off. We follow EOS, so our level 10 meeting with my business partners. And now we have to plan the colossal office space because we're growing at 10% compounded a month. And so in doing so, I'm starting to learn that the acquisition of talent is akin and no different to the acquisition of customers. There is a talent acquisition strategy. There is an onboarding talent strategy. There is a talent retention strategy, as all of the value in my business walks on 2 legs and goes up and down the elevator every day. So HR, we have 3 teammates in HR. HR has become a hugely valuable piece to growing this agency. Now, for some listeners, you might only grow an agency of 10 people and you're happy with that. We're growing an agency of 300 or 500. So I have to think at a level of scale I have not encountered yet, because my other two agencies were 30 employees and 15 employees. So this is all new territory for me.
Wow. How's it feel in the new territory? Do you like
It
the
feels,
bigger numbers?
it feels great. It's the different levels of anxiety. I'll call that.
Different levels of the hamster wheel. That's funny. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So here comes the big topic. You ready? What's everyone talking about? Everyone's talking about AI, 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 AI. So talk to me about your take on how AI, you kind of give me your take on it, but also, the offshore talent. Where does it fit into, finding talent and in just the world that you're living in? How has it been affecting, and where do you see it going?
So I have this very pointed view on it. So I was privy to two major sales and marketing revolutions, both the CRM and marketing automation, and then the social media, social selling era. The technology spun up and became much more kind of baked out tech long before usage and adoption became. If you look at a bell curve of early adopter, or like early innovator, early adopter, early majority, late majority, whatever that curve might be. I watched in marketing automation where by the mid 2010s, even going towards even 2020, there was this small percentage of the world that was still using marketing automation. And so many companies were just installing HubSpot and Salesforce for the first time. Yet they had existed as tools for 10 years. Then I watched the same thing with LinkedIn and digital marketing, digital video making, and all the things that went into social selling. Again, 2011, 2012 is when I coined social selling. And in 2022, 10 years later, every day we were getting a call from a company saying, we want to learn social selling for the first time. So I believe that the technology that the problems that AI can solve will dramatically outpace humans' interest and ability to adopt and utilize the technology. So there'll be much longer curve where this becomes normalized. Yeah. That's take one. Take two, I often think back from the position of $5 an hour versus $500 an hour value creation. Mm-hmm. And so every one of our teammates use AI. I would say about 20 to 30% of their day-to-day is informed, influenced, QA'd. We're using AI. So what is that doing? It's creating greater labor arbitrage. And so I see them as co-pilots. There isn't a single role in all the things that we do, which we do a lot of our customers' $5 an hour tasks that are replaceable in any short period of time. But what it's done is created more yield per employee. And I believe that's kind of, when this is all said and done 5 years from now, this idea that like 90% of the workforce won't exist, I think that's not true. I think what you will do is those that embraced it and those that are effective with it, that cohort of people will be able to do so much more by having these co-pilots. And what we've been informing our customers on is, hey, you don't have to worry about how a sausage is made. Like, your core business is your core business. Right. Our job is to build you videos and optimize your CRM and post on social. And AI is allowing us to go from 2 videos a week to 4 videos a week. That's all that it's doing, is creating more yield.
Right. The yield. And I think that's a good point. The yield. It's a tool and yield. Those are two great ways to look at it. And because a lot of people, they're seeing sometimes the advancement so far down. It's like sometimes we stare down at the 100-yard line and we should be looking at the 10-yard line right here.
Yeah. Everybody's like, oh my God, I'm not going to have a job in 5 years. Right. I can tell you that when LinkedIn came out, I assumed, and all of a sudden there was this explosion of social media. Everybody was on Facebook. YouTube was starting to grow, and you had LinkedIn. 5 years later, the number of people, the millions upon millions of sellers that had not even created a LinkedIn account. So and people will say, but AI is different. But is it? Like, I watched this with CRMs and marketing automation, and before that was some other tech, and before that was, again, the tech will outpace our interest and ability to adopt and utilize.
Well said.
Yeah.
Anything else, Jamie? What's going on? What do you got coming up? What are some big things on the horizon for you guys at Get Leverage?
Keep compounding at 10% a month and acquiring, and just like this beautiful dance between revenue creation and human capital. And it's this just, make sure that they're moving in lockstep.
Are they doing the salsa? What are they doing when they're dancing?
They're doing the salsa. I didn't think I'd be looking at office space 3 times in 2 years, but that's what I'm doing.
It's the salsa instead of the salsa. That's perfect. You got to coin that and use it. But then you have to do a video dancing in the new office. You got to start dancing and then do something else.
Yeah, and the office has to come much faster. Like, I thought it would creep up on us. No, it did not. It is like, go
It's
get it
there. That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Jamie, thank you so much for spending some time today. I know you're a busy guy. You got a lot of stuff going on, as you just outlined. And I think you really dropped some valuable knowledge for the audience. A lot of things that people can learn from in terms of how to use offshore talent, also how to scale, all these things that people talk about a lot, but you really just laid it out in great detail. And we thank you so much for your time.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on the show.
Bye, everybody. See you next episode.